Okay, so now we have the required gear that I have found that you will need at bare minimum no matter what. So now let's move into what I would call the basics of gear, the things that will make your Milsim event enjoyable versus just being down at the bare minimum. First, we have to figure out how are we going to attach our items, our patches, our pouches, all these things. How are they going to get on us? The three things I've seen that are very common are what's called chest rigs, ballistic vests, plate carriers, interchangeable words like that, and battle belt. Now these all come down to preference. Me personally, I've always enjoyed the vest one. There's a lot of area to work with and protects my body, but again, those will go down to what your personal preference is, and you can experiment with them. Next, you're going to need some type of pouch to carry your primary weapons magazines. Now, again, sometimes your chest rigs, your vests, certain ones, they will already have them included in them. So when you're shopping around, that's something you can look to see if maybe you like where that setup would be, or maybe you would like to be able to buy secondary pouches so you can move them around location where you see fit. Next would be your water bladder and hydration pack carrier. There's tons of different choices on the market, anywhere from Condor to Red Mountain, I think it's called. But there's tons of choices out on, I've seen on Amazon and eBay, that you can, some will even attach right to that MOLLE webbing. So if you had something like a vest carrier, you'd be able to put it right on there. There's other ones too that you can wear just like a book bag. So if you had something like a chest rig or a battle belt, you'd be able to wear that too. So again, how you're going to build your loadout, that's where you're going to decide what direction you're going to need to go. And also why I suggest starting with the plate carrier or whatever being spot number one, and we're going to build everything off of that. Next from there is additional magazines for your primary weapon. Now, I know I've said AAG pretty much, but there's also sniper rifles and other different style weapons that you can use. Even your MP5s or your P90s, they have different style magazines. But again, now is when you're going to want to have more than just one. Almost always when you buy any AAG new or any of those weapons, typically you will get at least one magazine. So now we're going to be moving into getting 1, 2, maybe 3 more. That should give you plenty of number of rounds. Like if you have a high cap mag, if they're allowed, that's almost 300 rounds per mag. So you can carry 900 with you before you would have to reload them. And typically at your respawn points, you would be able to. So that's more than plenty. Next, I would suggest boots. Try to get something that are what's called the 8-inch that go above your ankles. You're going to want that ankle support. You're going to be going up and down terrain. If you're in places with buildings, there's going to be stairs, etc. You want something that gives you that ankle support so you don't roll your ankle and have a bad day very quickly. Also, if you can get ones that are waterproof as well, that would be an additional asset. So if you have wet ground, or if you got to go through a little bit of water puddles and stuff, you can keep your feet dry so it doesn't ruin your day. Next would be gloves, specifically ones that try to match to your uniform, if they got the same camo style or at least that base color. So like multicam, go with ones either multicam or even tan. Try and make them kind of blend in. This will protect your hands from those said ascending and descending. So if you need to climb ladders or you got to climb in through a window, anything like that. It also protects your hands from BB shots. The less skin you have exposed, in my experience, the better you'll be. Next, we move to our heads. I personally prefer a helmet. It gives me more protection if I bump my head in low light situations, or you're going through woodlands and a branch slaps you, whatever. It just gives you a little more of a protection. But you can have just a handkerchief over your head or a hat if you want. So you're going to want to look in that direction and start planning on where you're going to go with. Now, for example, if you're going to start doing video editing and recording your events, a helmet might be nice because then that GoPro or whatever you try to mount will mount very, very nicely, especially for that first-person shooter point of view. But again, there's hats out there that have those attachments as well. But it's something to consider. Think about where you're going with this equipment. You don't want to buy something and then be like, oh, this isn't going to work for it. Now I got to buy something different. Just something to think about with that. Next would be something that is not always required, but sometimes can be. So that's kind of why I didn't put in the requirements video, but a mouth guard kind of thing. Not like a mouth guard you put in your mouth, but something that protects that part of your face, your nose, your lips. They're typically like a heavy mesh, like a wire kind of almost Bane-looking mask. That's going to be something you're going to want as well. So again, if you're doing like close quarter combat or close quarter battle, you anticipate on that, especially with what's called riflemen. They have no engagement. They could be literally a foot away and shoot you point blank. So that's something to think about as well. Next would be focusing still on the head would be your goggles. Have an anti-fog. Now there's plenty of options on the market. There's different pastes that you can put on them. This is going to be something you're going to have to probably experiment both with your body and your goggles that you have. You're going to have to take that out to a practice, whether it's through a league, through wherever. If those options aren't immediately available, if you have a gym membership or ability to even just run through your local area, put the goggles on and just run. Try to get your heart rate and everything up and see if they fog up on you. Or even what I've seen people do is even easier than that is they will take a pot of water, boil it, and hold their glasses over to see if that condensation forms. So that's just another option to think about as well. Last but certainly not least is some type of large duffel bag that you're going to have all this gear in. You need to move it from point A to point B somehow. So you're going to want some type of big bag. Now, you can use whatever it is that you might currently have. If you have to use 3 or 4 bags to move everything, by all means. You could even just use a big luggage bag. But you're going to need something like that to be able to move everything. There's actually some fields and some indoor places that I've seen that they specifically say, we don't want to see any gear coming in or out. Like you can't even have it physically on you. You can't even walk in like that. So that's a consideration. Next thing on the list is a watch. Some require this, very few have. However, I strongly recommend getting one, even just a cheap one. In fact, cheaper the better, just a simple, even $5 one from your local box store. Something that can at least tell you your current time and have a stopwatch option. The reason you want that is some of these events you will have what's called a bleed out time when you get hit. So you take your hit, you call your shot, and they say you have to wait 5 minutes before you can be medic or call for a medic. Okay, so to sum things up, the bullet points real quick, you're going to want a either chest rig, vest, or battle belt. That's going to come down to your preference and how you want to do your loadout. Pouches for your primary magazine, bladder with the bladder carrier, additional mags for that magazine. I'd suggest up to 2 additional ones. 3 should be plenty. Boots, preferably ones that can go above your ankles, give you that ankle support for your terrain. Gloves, ones that are either the same camouflage that you're wearing or the base color. A helmet, handkerchief, or hat, something that can cover your head. And again, if you're going to be looking to do video, try to keep that in mind when you pick these out. A face/mouth protection, your anti-fog for your goggles, and a bag for all of your gear to go in so that you have something to carry it to and from wherever it is that you're going to be playing. That is your basics on your Milsim loadout.